All right, everybody. Oh, look at that. Dave, you're already there. Good Sunday afternoon from Southern Oregon. Thank you, my friend. All right, it's good to have you on here, Dave. I appreciate all your comments all the time. All right, we are live. As always, usually technical issues have been resolved, but if for some reason you can't hear me or something, let me know. And just kind of the summary from my last live. I'm going to kind of experiment around and use this as my main platform for kind of giving weekly updates on the van build. And I'm going to try to do those updates in the first 10 minutes. Because I certainly, a lot of these lives will sometimes extend, sometimes a little bit longer. So for those who may not want to watch the whole thing, let me get into some of those updates right away. So we're going to roll into it right now. If you have any questions or anything, I throw them in there. And I'll touch on those after I kind of cover this week's updates in terms of what I got done. So Mike, hello from Iverness, Florida. It's nice to meet. It's good to see you. Dave, thanks a bunch. Good video and audio. It's good to have that feedback. Maybe sometime consider landscape. So it could be a technical thing I'm unaware of, but I have to go into portrait mode in the lives, and that's just the way it's set up. So unfortunately, we're in portrait mode unless there's some other mechanism unaware of, but I have heard that feedback before, so I'll try to do my best here. So we're going to roll in. This week, the primary focus has been on getting the kitchen, sorry, I was moving a few things in there, getting the kitchen all, or most of the kitchen cabinetry stuff all sheathed up with the cedar, and getting a couple other things done. Now, I believe this wasn't done last week either, but as you guys can see up there, this overhead storage area, so this is above the cab of the van. I got this sheathed in. This was actually quite challenging to get all this lined up with the contour of the roof here. So you guys can see I had a little mistake down there. And there will be some kind of a trim I'll put up in here to kind of give it a nice final finished look, but for the most part this was done. It's amazing how some of these little small things like this will take quite a while to get done. And then down here in the kitchen area, oh thanks Bill, I appreciate that. And the kitchen area, I got it all sheathed out in here. I think I had, if I remember correctly, I think I had some of this left. I don't remember, it doesn't matter, but I got this done. And then down here to the lower part here, let's see if we can get a bit. Let me actually open up the van door here and look at it out this way. Sorry guys, give me 1 minute. All right. Okay, we're okay. We dropped the phone there. We're okay. Thanks, Mike. I appreciate it. Okay, sorry about that, guys. All right, so here is what the kitchen area is looking like. So we've got all of the, somebody let me know, I can't remember if this was in there last week, but I got all those walls sheathed in right there around the burner and the faucet. And then above, we've got the little caddy, or the little, I can't reach my finger up there, right, where am I at? There it is. So I got the little storage area up there, I got that all sheathed in, and I got that meshed with the roof. A lot of tricky cutting there to get all that, and I'll bring it in for a little closer look here in a second. But a lot of tricky carpentry to get all that stuff to just fit just right. And then so I started making the doors, okay? Okay, Dave, remind me, forgot what your plans are for the refrigerator. I'll talk on that, and I'm actually going to talk about that little refrigerator section later, so remind me if I don't bring that up. I'll bring it up here in the next couple minutes, though. Thanks, Dave. So this door, and I actually put together a very short video on how to make these doors. I've talked about this in some of my other camper builds, but this is a very simplistic, just kind of a flat panel style door out of the cedar. But this, so what we have here, sorry guys, I'm bouncing around a bit here. Let's move this up in here. All right, we're going to move into some close-ups, and I'm going to talk about various designs here. Let me just crawl back in. All right, here we are. We're coming. All right. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so you guys saw the wider angle. All right, so what we did down here is this. So this is the base of the sink area. So this is a drawer, okay? And this is a pretty big, deep drawer. I added some little ribs there because I'll probably have like a little shelf or something that you could take in and slide out and slide that in. Okay, so the first question is, Dave, why do you have so much space on these sides, right? You could have made a big drawer. Well, the problem is, and we'll rotate back around in here and look right in here, is we got all kinds of stuff going on there. We got the sink, we got the drain. I'm trying to look at the side-eyed here. So basically, I kind of had to work around all of this stuff. I'll bring this back out to fit this drawer in. So it was just really a matter of my mechanical limitations because of all the other functioning parts. And then down here, so this is below that drawer. I'm sorry, guys, just give me a second. I'm trying to get this camera to work. There you go. Is I made this little pop-out section here. Now, the water tank sits behind this, so this couldn't be a drawer, and I wanted to utilize this space, but I didn't have much. So I'll put some stops right here, so this thing will stop like this. But you guys can see it sits on some piano hinges down here, and it just cantilevers out like that. Okay? Now, the drawer front and this little flap down section here is going to be, I've made both of these, but it's going to be with these same doors. So, is this guy, I hope this is making sense so far, guys. I know it's a little hard with this camera angle, but it's coming along. Let's get in a little closer here. So there's still some trim and stuff I need to add in. I want to add in a piece of trim along this edge here, but you can see I trimmed it out in here. This was a kind of a tricky thing. I, of course, would have typically extended this cabinet all the way over, but I had this vent, this rooftop vent, and this is actually pretty important. So I had to kind of create this cavity that leads down into the oven area there. Hope that's clear to you guys. Now, some accent stuff. You guys are kind of starting to get some of the design motif outside of just the cedar here. So this piece right here that extends into this is actually a piece of walnut. Now, there's no finish on any of this, so when I put on the poly on all this, this will darken up slightly and have a little bit more of a sheen, okay? But very much kind of like Camper 3.0, Camper 7.0, and maybe some others. I'm going to do, the motif in here is going to be natural cedar with walnut accents, or at least a dark wood accent. So I'll give you an example. This countertop here, there's not much of it, so that's why, but this is actually cherry, and then I stained it really dark so it matched kind of what will ultimately be the walnut trimming, or the walnut trimming there. Basically, even though this is cherry stained real dark, at the end of the day, especially with how there's not much of this countertop surface between the stove and the sink, you won't really notice it too much. But this motif, the natural cedar with the darker wood contrast, will be something that you guys see throughout this entire camper build. A lot of these little details will not come into play just yet, but we are getting there. So back to the mechanics of storage down here in this kitchen area. So I acknowledge I had some limitations just because of the mechanicals down there, and that's why it's kind of set off to the side. But what I did do is, all right. Okay, so this right here is obviously the driver's seat. Now it's pushed forward a little bit and it's slid max forward. What I did though is, for stuff that you might want to get not as frequently, is I actually added this whole shelf down in here. So if you slid the driver's seat forward and tipped it forward, you could still get in here and you could put some storage items down in here, below here. But this also, more importantly, allows you to access all the mechanical stuff down in there. If I ever had to do like a plumbing repair or something, for example, or this drawer's like all drawers, this can be pulled out and you can actually kind of, it's not very comfortable, but you can reach in there and access all the plumbing. If you guys are making your own, seems like a common sense thing, but it's it's important to make sure that you can access all these mechanical things and fix it. Dave, it's good to see you, buddy. Have a good one. Okay. So that's kind of where we're at as far as the stuff that I'm working out. Drawer, tip-out shelf. Got the main body. We got some storage behind. So next phase is the bathroom. So that's the bathroom is going to be quite a bit of work. I'll have to mount the pan, get all the plumbing. Most of the plumbing's already set up, but I got to plumb it through the pan, so that means I got to drill a couple holes. There's a few more structural things I have to build, make up in here, and then I'm going to start putting in, smoothing out the walls and getting it waterproof. But I also need to create a mechanism to where I have a door. So the bathroom's going to be quite a bit of work, but we'll talk about this next week. I don't think I'll be done with it by next week, but that's where we're going to roll in there. It's unfortunate that Pat had to leave because he was asking about sorry, let me just kind of look backwards here what we got going on here. He was asking about the fridge. So let's see. Let me try to get a good angle here. Okay. So what you guys are looking at, so this is where the fridge is going to be at. These are the two side doors. Okay, you open those to exit out the bottom. The fridge is going to sit, just give me a second, guys. I'm going to try to find a better view. There you go. That's the one right there. Okay. So over here, this is the edge of the bed platform. Okay. These are the two side doors. So right down into this area is going to be a platform. I'm sorry, my hand's moving, but it's the reverse, so I'm trying to get my brain worked out here. But there's going to be a short platform with a drawer underneath, and then I have a chest-style DC compressor fridge, which is going to sit in this area right here. So that's where the fridge is going to be, right? Which is a pretty, most of these vans like this have something right in this area. Now, for some countertop space, let's see what some of these questions are. Okay, Dave. All right, good. So I'm talking about the fridge there. Hope you caught some of that there. Okay. So obviously countertop space up here is very limited. And that's just what it is. It's a compromise. Because I have this shower and the toilet in here, that takes up a lot of space. So what I'm going to do to combat that is over on this side. Okay, so that's immediately adjacent to the swiveling passenger seat. I'm going to have a narrow countertop section which will lay flat against this, but then it will snap up into place. So you'll have a little section to put stuff on if you're sitting at that seat, but it'll also give a little bit more countertop space to the bathroom. However, or I'm sorry, to the kitchen area. However, so now the camera is positioned where that kitchen area is looking back. Over here, you'll have your fridge in this area. But what I did is I bought, you can get lagoon mounts that have a really, really tall stand on them. So one of those is going to mount on that platform where the fridge sits. And then sitting about in this area here is going to be another tabletop surface. And that's going to be on a lagoon mount. If you guys don't know, it's a mount that allows for the movement of the table right here. I've used it on a couple of my campers, or at least variations of that. So even though over here, this place is pretty much just the meat and potatoes with not a whole lot of countertop space, because you guys got to imagine directly behind me if I'm standing at this kitchen. So look back here. Over here where the fridge is going to be is I'm going to have a tabletop that's on a swiveling lagoon mount right here. And that, so right directly behind me will be some more countertop space. And then if I'm sitting in this rotating passenger seat here, the table that is right there above the fridge can also swivel over in front of this if you want to eat from it. Or I would have the tabletop right there that snaps up into place that you guys can eat from. So if you guys say to yourself that makes no sense, I don't blame you. I know it's kind of hard to see from in here, but that's how I'm going to try to accomplish and kind of get around the, kind of the limitations that this current kitchen setup has. So in brief, I know I ran my mouth there for about 15 minutes. I appreciate all your guys' compliments and everything. But that's kind of the updates for this week. Next week, I'm going to work as hard as I can and try to get a lot done in that bathroom area. So hopefully that should be there. And then this is the Q&A section. If you guys don't have any questions like last week, that's fine. But if you guys have any questions, I'm going to hang out for a few minutes and go ahead and start popping them in. And other than that, guys, that's where we're at. I appreciate you guys tuning in. I know it's sometimes busy out there, but this is where we're at. So if you guys have any questions, pop them in. Let's see, what else could I show you guys here? Let's see here. Yeah, we'll talk about, let's see, look at this little door here. I'll talk about this door. So I put together, I think it's going to be about 1 minute and 40 seconds. So I put together a real quick video. I know sometimes it's hard for people to tune in and watch stuff that's really long. I'm the same way. But this is going to be the flat panel door motif that's going to be throughout this camper. Let's see, Dave, what do we got here? What is the small vents you have over the shower and stove? Amazon thing? Yeah, so that's a good question. So these vents, so these are actually made by Max Air. So the same company that makes the Max Air fan. And they're vent fans. The van had similar fans installed when I bought it, and of course, it's a nice vent for over the kitchen area, which I actually do like, especially since it's so confined. And then it functions as a vent in the bathroom if you're if you want to vent the air out in the bathroom. But these are actually Max Air branded. And this one had a couple others in here, but they were all torn up, and I actually took them out. But these Max Air fan vents were a direct replacement. I've got a tape measure. I think they're 6 inches, but let me measure it real quick here. Yeah, so they got about a 6-inch opening. Of course, with the trim, it's a little bit wider. But those are just Max Air vent fans, or Max Air brand. They're just 6-inch wide ones, and they're real small. And I think it makes sense. They don't pull a ton of air, but for over a kitchen or in the bathroom, they're perfect. So, but yeah. So let's see. So these little doors, though, like I said, one will be for that drawer and that little bend down thing, and then up here, obviously it's going to be a different size, but I'm going to make a little door for that of the same style. And then, so we're tilting around here. This is toward the back of the van. Let's see where we're at here. So this opening right here, which is another storage area, I'll make another door like that of the same style. So, okay, so Adventure Shadow. I know you mentioned it before, so sorry to ask again. What kind of wood is the interior made of, and why did you choose it? And it's a beautiful... Oh, okay, that's great. Okay, so let me read that question again. So basically, Adventure to Shadow is asking, what is the kind of wood in the interior? This is cedar. You guys give me a moment. Let me actually throw my tripod back up. It's a little easier than holding this camera in my hand here. All right. Put this back in there. All right. Okay. So all this wood in here is cedar. Okay. And that's a great question. Why? So cedar is a very special wood. I've used it in a lot of my builds in various ways. Okay, so cedar has a couple important qualities. It's dimensionally stable. Okay. Oh, hey, Steve. It's good to see you, buddy. I haven't seen you in a while. How's the UK doing up there? Steve SRH is a longtime viewer of the channel. I think he's been watching maybe all the way from the very beginning. So he's up in the, hope he doesn't mind me saying this, but he's up in the UK. That's a big place. But anyways, back to cedar. So cedar has many positive qualities. One of them, and I'll talk about them all, is dimensional stability. And what that means is this, is you guys know this. A lot of wood, if it's cut and it's left sitting, it can warp. And that's particularly something that you see a lot with softwoods like pines and stuff like that. They could bend up Oh, Mike Lawns, another old timer. It's good to see you, my friend. Old timer in the sense of been checking out the channel for a long time. But cedar is really nice. You guys have probably seen an old piece of pine or something. You leave it in your garage and you look at it and it's all twisted up like this. Any wood can do that. And it has things to do with exposures to humidity and other circumstances or natural variations in the wood. But some woods are more prone to it or not. And the one nice thing about cedar is it's definitely very stable. So that makes it easy to work with. Number two is it's very lightweight, which for building campers is good because it keeps weight down. Now there is the fact that it's lightweight is an indicator that it's not very dense, of course. So that it does have some limitations. Cedar per square inch, if you want to, or per an equivalent amount of size, is not the strongest wood. There's many other hardwoods like maple, for example, which is what I use for all the framing in this, which is far harder than cedar and it's going to hold screws better. Now that's not necessarily a knock on cedar, just as long as you know its limitations. So for example, when I built this, I could have built all of the framing out of cedar. It's just that the framing would have been larger. So I went ahead and used a maple because it allowed me to use a little bit smaller framing members. So but it also maple will hold screws a lot better, or most hardwoods, not just maple, than cedar. So even though this is very light, which is a good quality, it won't hold screws as well. But as long as you understand that limitation and you kind of work around that, both in the mechanics of how you assemble things and where you choose to use it for structural considerations, cedar is very good in that sense. Probably one of the most notable qualities, which probably everybody knows, is it has a really nice aroma. I'm kind of attenuated to cedar because I'm always working with it. I'm sitting in the van, I'm cutting it. But so if one of you jumped in the van right now, the cedar smell would probably be overwhelming. But for me, I barely notice it. But sometimes if I haven't worked on the van in a while and I open up the door, you can really smell it. So a lot of people like cedar because of that. And the same oils that give cedar its really aromatic quality also help. Bugs don't tend to be as big of an issue with cedar, so it's resistant to a lot of insect infestations. And then there might be some other qualities, but the final one I'll mention here is because of those same oils that give it its aromatic qualities, it's also very resistant to rot. Now again, all wood is going to rot, but cedar is going to tend to be, if it's exposed to elements, it's going to tend to be very stable. That dimension of stability, it's not going to move and wiggle as much, and it's also going to be less likely to decay like many other pieces of wood would be. I've showed this before in other videos, but just as an anecdote to the staying power of cedar, I built a chicken coop in the backyard, and there was a wall section where I used cedar on it, and I did no finishing at all. I literally just used a raw cedar. Now I am in the desert and we don't get tons of rain, but that wall section has been there for I think about 4 years now, 3-4 years, exposed to rain, sun, weather. All of that cedar has stayed very stable. It hasn't warped and it hasn't broke itself apart from warping or anything, and it's discolored a little bit, which you'd expect, but it's not rotting away or decaying. So I love, obviously, working with wood, and I'm fascinated by all of the different characteristics that different species of wood has. But if I were to pick a wood that had so many positive characteristics in one piece, cedar's probably right up there with that. I'm going on a tangent here, but if you guys ever have one other thing about cedar I want to mention, this kind of goes along with it being a softwood, is it's a pleasure to work with. It's very easy to cut. It's an absolute pleasure to mill and cut and to work with it. Two of my other favorite species of wood are cherry, which is probably, in terms of my hardwoods, it's probably my number one. Cherry is an absolute wonder to work with. It holds screws well. It's strong. It stains really well. And I'm sorry, let me go back to that. One thing, if you wanted to build something and you wanted to stain it, that's another thing you have to consider. Some woods take stain really well, like cherry. Softwoods certainly pine, but cedar to a slightly lesser extent. You can stain them, but they're not going to stain as well because it's going to get kind of blotchy. But you take cherry stains beautifully. And then, of course, walnut. I love walnut, too. Both cherry and walnut, they're very strong. They hold screws well. I've never actually stained walnut because I like the natural look of it so much. But those were also gems of species of woods to work with. So, great question, Lance. I appreciate it, buddy. SRH. Okay, what do we got? What's the UK been like? It's been a bit cold and wet. Typical UK weather. Yeah, that's it, my friend. I hope, I'm really glad to see you, and I hope you're doing well. I appreciate you, Steve. Dave, what do we got here? I put a small puck light above my passenger seat area for reading when sitting, and it makes a quick turn on light when the door is open. 3M stick tape. You know what? That's actually a great idea, Dave. And you know what? It's going to be a little bit later down the project, but I've got to actually go through and I'm going to I guess you'd say reupholster is what you call, but the little platform area here. And my, I still got to fix this. I have an overhead light in here that turns on when the doors are open and stuff, but I got to replace that. So I've got to, that's actually, you gave me a great idea. I got a bunch of those puck lights already in hand. So I'll probably replace this with a puck light. And then I think you're absolutely right. I'll put one right over the door. For those who watched, David Patrick is always putting in good comments and has some really good ideas. He's got a Chevy van himself, if I recall. So, but guys, that's about it. I appreciate you all checking in. If you guys have any more questions, I'll give you guys another minute or two to throw them out. But otherwise, I think I'm going to call it for today. It means a lot to see a lot of you, especially the guys who've been around for a long time watching the channel. Means a lot. And if you guys ever have any questions, in the about section of my channel, so if you're let's see if you go to the home page of my channel and you scroll over the top to the far right, it's called about. I have an email in there, and you can shoot me an email, and I can answer a question that way. We'll see. What do we got, Dave? I'll email a pic of the light. Great info about the wood. Thanks. Learning much here. All right, you're welcome. All right, guys. But otherwise, I appreciate you watching. Hope this is helpful. One other caveat: I know there's a lot of there's a lot of unfinished things looking in here. That's just this thing's mid construction. A lot of the real fine tuning of a lot of the trim and stuff. That's that's some of it I do as I go, kind of like I showed you with the walnut trim and the well, actually right here, matter of fact. Now that we're talking about it. But a lot of this thing will finally take shape kind of in that last stage. So, all right, guys. So thanks for tuning in, and I will talk to you guys in a bit. Thank you very much.